General Motors, Delta Airlines, Marvel Entertainment. Three staples of American businesses in three totally different industries. Think the correlation between these is that they're all massive and successful companies? Well, actually, what makes these three companies similar is that all three of them declared bankruptcy. Yes, you heard me right. The largest automobile manufacturer in the United States, the highest grossing revenue airline in America, and the iconic creative of all your favorite superhero movies all declared bankruptcy during the last 30 years. But how can that be? Especially since you witness the impact of these companies on a daily basis. It's because bankruptcy is not the same as going out of business, and all bankruptcies are not created equally. We often associate bankruptcy with monopoly terms, the event that happens when you have no more money to pay your debts and thus go broke. But in the real world, there are different meanings to going bankrupt. As a concept, bankruptcy dates back to ancient times, representing an individual or an entity's inability to pay back their debts. But laws around bankruptcy were not established until later on in the 19th century. Even still, bankruptcy was not something one could voluntarily declare, and most bankruptcy laws were temporary measures that only lasted a few years. Finally, in the United States, the Bankruptcy Act of 1898 was enacted, which established a permanent system of bankruptcy. Then, the Chandler Act of 1938 introduced the reorganization of debt bankruptcy and set the ground for the eventual creation of Chapters 7, 11, and 13 bankruptcies. It was during this 20th century time period that the concept of bankruptcy took on a whole new meaning than what the public's perception of it typically has been. We all know that spending more than you make will eventually lead to going bankrupt, and similarly, making more videos than what the likes justify can lead to social media bankruptcy. So to ensure our account doesn't go into social media debt, consider giving us a like, comment, or subscription from this video so we can stay liquid and continue operating as a going concern. But outside of the stereotype of being bankrupt, companies see bankruptcy as a reorganization. The notion of reorganization, not liquidation, is highlighted in the most widely publicized type of bankruptcy law, called Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which you may have heard of in business news headlines. One of the most recent instances of this type of bankruptcy is WeWork, who found themselves stuck in long-term leases made in 2019 of buildings that they couldn't fill with businesses due to the massive shift to remote work. Overextended and overcommitted, they're not able to pay their landlords, and thus they've sought protection from creditors under Chapter 11. In a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the debtor remains in control of their assets and continues to operate the business while developing a reorganization plan. The plan, which is subject to creditor and court approval, outlines how the debtor, usually a company, will pay its obligations. This can often involve restructuring of debts, altering of payment terms, and downsizing of operations to make profitability more attainable. It can be a lengthy process that takes several years and has been a high-paying market for specialist consultants who come in to oversee the restructuring and reorganization. The goal of this bankruptcy is not to shut the business down, but to transform it into something that can emerge more financially stable moving forward. Conversely, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy involves the liquidation of assets to pay off debts and is most often filed by individuals. In this type of bankruptcy, a trustee is appointed to oversee the liquidation of a debtor's non-exempt assets, and upon completion of this process, most of the outstanding debts are discharged. For businesses, this means the end of the business, as the assets are sold off. But fortunately, this process is quickly completed within a few months. When you see a liquidation sale sign on a storefront, it's likely that this is what happened. Finally, there's Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is exclusively for individuals with regular income. Since it's not for a business and personal assets are needed to sustain living, assets are kept by the debtor while they make payments under a repayment plan. This is usually a proposal to make installments to creditors over 3 to 5 years. While this is very useful to those facing hardship, there are debt limits to be eligible, so it's not necessarily a viable option for all creditors. Overall, the goal of bankruptcy laws is to protect struggling businesses and individuals from the many penalties associated with being unable to pay debts and obligations, kind of like those you'd face if you didn't pay your gambling debt to your mafia bookie. Although the public perception of hearing a company is undergoing Chapter 11 bankruptcy is that the company is going out of business, in actuality, it's the mechanism that enables a business to survive and have a strategy for recovery and sustainability. We've seen how Chapter 11 bankruptcy can turn businesses around and create a thriving entity, with examples such as GM, Delta, American Airlines, Kodak, and Marvel. And those are just a few of the many organizations that take advantage of this law. These companies found ways to use their second chance to turn things around for the better, become more efficient, and maximize success. But that's never a guarantee. It takes business professionals who know what they're doing to pull this off. So whether you're directly involved in financial affairs or not, understanding what it means when you hear about a bankruptcy filing will give you a better perspective on how businesses operate and how the economy works. And if you found this video to be of value, We'd appreciate you helping our likes to debt ratio by engaging with our content, by letting us know in the comments what you'd like to hear about next. Just don't go bankrupt holiday shopping. We'll see you in the new year, and as always, thanks for watching.